Claire's life seemed like a classic tale of resilience, a devoted wife, a 12-year marriage, and countless sacrifices for love. But what she didn't know was that while she was fighting a devastating cancer, her husband, Stephen, was counting the days until her death. He already had another woman, a twisted plan, and a future that didn't include her, but Stephen made one fatal mistake. He underestimated Claire. And when someone who has nothing left to lose decides to fight back, revenge becomes the most ruthless form of justice. The autumn sun cast long shadows across the tree-lined streets of Minneapolis as Claire Donovan hurried home from Jefferson High School, where she'd spent the last decade shaping young minds as an English teacher. Her arms were laden with essays to grade, a routine she'd grown accustomed to over the years. As she approached the modest two-story house she shared with her husband Stephen, a sense of unease settled in her stomach, a feeling that had become all too familiar lately. Claire paused at the front door, taking a deep breath before entering. The house was quiet, save for the distant hum of the furnace fighting off the encroaching chill of a Minnesota fall. She set her bag down and called out, "Stephen, I'm home." No response. She made her way to the kitchen, her footsteps echoing in the silence. A note on the refrigerator caught her eye. "Working late. Don't wait up. S." Claire sighed, a mixture of disappointment and relief washing over her. It seemed their paths were crossing less and less these days. She poured herself a glass of wine, a small indulgence to take the edge off, and settled at the dining room table to tackle the stack of papers. As she worked, her mind wandered to the early days of their relationship. She and Stephen had met at the University of Minnesota 12 years ago. Claire, a junior studying education, had quite literally bumped into Stephen outside the library. He'd been a sophomore then, bright-eyed and full of dreams about becoming an engineer. Their connection had been instant, a whirlwind romance that had swept them both off their feet. Those first few years had been tough, but wonderful. They'd scraped by on Claire's part-time job at a local bookstore and Stephen's work-study program. When Stephen's scholarship fell through, it was Claire who'd stepped up, taking on extra tutoring jobs to help pay his tuition. "We're in this together," she told him, squeezing his hand. "Your dreams are my dreams." And for a while it seemed like their shared sacrifice was paying off. Stephen graduated with honors, landing an entry-level position at a prestigious engineering firm in downtown Minneapolis. They'd married in a small ceremony at Lake Harriet, surrounded by friends and family, full of hope for the future they'd build together. Claire's fingers absently traced the rim of her wine glass as she remembered their wedding day. Stephen had looked at her with such adoration, such promise. Where had that look gone? A sharp pain in her lower back jolted Claire from her reverie. She winced, shifting in her chair. These aches had been happening more frequently lately, but she chalked it up to the stress of the new school year and the long hours spent hunched over her desk. As she returned to grading papers, Claire's mind drifted to the growing distance between her and Stephen. It had started subtly. Missed dinners, forgotten anniversaries, conversations that felt more like small talk than the deep, meaningful exchanges they used to have. At first, she'd attributed it to the demands of Stephen's job. He'd been putting in long hours, chasing that big promotion he'd been eyeing for the past year. But lately there was something else. A coldness in his eyes when he looked at her, a hesitation in his touch that hadn't been there before. Claire couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in their relationship, like a fault line, quietly splitting beneath the surface of their seemingly stable life. She remembered the night last week when she'd reached for him in bed, only to have him roll away, mumbling something about being tired. The rejection had stung more than she cared to admit. Claire shook her head, trying to dispel the doubts creeping into her mind. They were just going through a rough patch, that's all. 12 years of marriage were bound to have ups and downs. They'd weather this storm like they had all the others. As she finished grading the last essay, Claire noticed the time, past midnight, and still no sign of Stephen. She tidied up the dining room and headed upstairs, each step accompanied by a dull ache in her back. In the bathroom, Claire caught sight of herself in the mirror. At 38, she still turned heads, but tonight she looked tired, worn. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her skin seemed paler than usual. She leaned closer, examining her reflection. Had she lost weight? Her cheekbones seemed more pronounced, her collarbones more visible beneath her blouse. Shrugging off her concerns, Claire got ready for bed. As she changed into her pajamas, she couldn't help but notice how loose they felt. She made a mental note to start taking better care of herself, Maybe join that yoga class her colleague Sarah was always raving about. Sleep came fitfully that night, interrupted by strange dreams and the persistent ache in her back. When Claire woke the next morning, she felt as if she hadn't slept at all. Stephen's side of the bed was empty and cold. He must have come in late and left early again. As Claire went through her morning routine, she couldn't shake the feeling of exhaustion that seemed to permeate every cell of her body. The mirror revealed dark smudges under her eyes, and her skin had a sickly pallor to it. She applied an extra layer of concealer, determined not to let her students see how tired she felt. The day dragged on, each class feeling longer than the last. By lunchtime, Claire was struggling to keep her eyes open. Her colleague Sarah noticed her fatigue. "Claire, are you feeling all right? You look a little pale," Sarah said, concern etched on her face. Claire forced a smile. "Just a bit under the weather. Nothing a good night's sleep won't fix." But deep down, Claire knew this was more than just being tired. The persistent backache, the unexplained weight loss, the bone-deep fatigue. Something wasn't right. That evening, as Claire sat alone at the dinner table, picking at a meal she had no appetite for, she made a decision. It was time to see a doctor. The next few weeks passed in a blur of doctor's appointments, blood tests and scans. Stephen, when he was home, seemed distracted and uncomfortable with Claire's health concerns. His attempts at comfort felt hollow, rehearsed. "I'm sure it's nothing serious," he'd say, not quite meeting her eyes. "Probably just stress." But Claire could feel it in her bones. This was more than stress. Finally, on a crisp October morning, Claire sat in Dr. Patel's office, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The doctor's face was grave as she looked up from the file in front of her. "Mrs. Donovan," Dr. Patel began, her voice gentle but firm, "I'm afraid I have some difficult news." Claire's heart pounded in her chest, a roaring in her ears nearly drowning out the doctor's next words. "The tests show an aggressive form of cancer. It's already at an advanced stage." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Claire gripped the arms of her chair, struggling to process the information. Questions tumbled from her lips. What kind of cancer? How advanced? What were her options? Dr. Patel explained patiently, outlining treatment plans and survival rates. But Claire only half listened, her mind reeling. How would she tell Stephen? Her parents? Her students? As she left the doctor's office, Claire felt as if she were walking in a dream. The busy Minneapolis streets seemed muted, distant. She found herself in Loring Park, collapsing onto a bench as the reality of her situation crashed over her. Cancer. Advanced. Aggressive. Tears streamed down her face as she sat there, surrounded by the vibrant colors of fall, life bursting all around her, while death whispered in her ear. Finally, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Claire stood. She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. She was a fighter, always had been. This was just another battle, albeit the biggest one of her life. With renewed determination, Claire began the walk home. She would beat this. She had to. There was still so much life to live, so many students to inspire, so many dreams to fulfill. As she approached her house, Claire saw Stephen's car in the driveway, her heart clenched. How would he react to the news? Would this bring them closer together or drive them further apart? With a trembling hand, Claire reached for the doorknob. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. Claire's hand trembled as she turned the doorknob, the weight of her diagnosis pressing down on her shoulders. She stepped into the foyer, the familiar scent of home doing little to calm her racing heart. "Stephen?" she called out, her voice barely above a whisper. She found him in the living room, laptop perched on his knees, his face illuminated by the screen's blue glow. He looked up, his expression neutral. "Hey," he said, closing the laptop. "Where have you been?" Claire took a deep breath, steeling herself. I had a doctor's appointment." Stephen's brow furrowed. "Everything okay?" The concern in his voice almost broke her. Claire sank into the armchair across from him, her legs suddenly unable to support her weight. "No," she said softly. "No, it's not okay." As she recounted Dr. Patel's diagnosis, Claire watched Stephen's face, searching for a reaction. His eyes widened, his mouth set in a tight line, but the outpouring of emotion she had expected, tears, anger, despair, never came. "Cancer," he repeated, his voice oddly flat. "Are they sure?" Claire nodded, a lump forming in her throat. It's pretty advanced. Dr. Patel wants to start treatment right away. Stephen ran a hand through his hair, his gaze distant. What kind of treatment? Chemotherapy to start. They want to shrink the tumors before considering surgery. A heavy silence fell between them. Claire waited for Stephen to say something, anything, to hold her, to tell her they'd get through this together. Instead, he stood abruptly. "I need some air," he muttered, grabbing his jacket. Before Claire could respond, the front door slammed shut behind him. Left alone in the quiet house, Claire finally allowed herself to break down. Sobs racked her body as the full reality of her situation crashed over her. She cried for the life she might lose, for the dreams that might go unfulfilled, and for the husband who couldn't seem to face this challenge with her. The next few weeks passed in a blur of doctor's appointments and preparations for treatment. Claire took a leave of absence from teaching, her heart heavy as she said goodbye to her students. She tried to stay positive, to focus on the fight ahead, but Stephen's growing distance made it increasingly difficult. He attended her first chemotherapy session, sitting stiffly in the chair beside her as the drugs dripped into her veins. But his discomfort was palpable, his eyes darting around the room, never quite meeting hers. "You don't have to stay," Claire said softly, noticing his restlessness. "I know hospitals make you uncomfortable." Relief flashed across Stephen's face. "Are you sure? I can stick around if you need me." Claire forced a smile. "I'm sure. Go on. I'll be fine." As Stephen hurried out of the treatment room, Claire felt a pang of loneliness. She closed her eyes, trying to ignore the pitying looks from other patients and their loved ones. The effects of chemotherapy hit Claire hard. Her thick auburn hair began to fall out in clumps. Her skin took on a sickly pallor, and waves of nausea left her weak and miserable. Through it all, Stephen remained distant, spending more and more time at work or locked away in his home office. One evening, as Claire lay curled up on the bathroom floor after a particularly brutal round of vomiting, she heard Stephen's phone ping with a message. Curious, she dragged herself to her feet and made her way to the living room. Stephen was sprawled on the couch, fast asleep, his phone face down on the coffee table. The screen lit up again with another message. Claire hesitated, her hand hovering over the device. She had never been the type to invade her husband's privacy, but something, intuition perhaps, urged her to look. Before she could change her mind, Claire picked up the phone. The lock screen displayed a message preview. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Miss you outer N." Claire's breath caught in her throat. N. Who was N? And why were they missing her husband? She set the phone down, her mind racing. It could be innocent, she told herself. A colleague, maybe. But the knot in her stomach told her otherwise. Over the next few weeks, Claire found herself paying closer attention to Stephen's behavior. The late nights at work, the secretive phone calls, the way he angled his body away from her when texting. It all began to paint a picture she didn't want to see. One night, unable to sleep, Claire made her way downstairs for a glass of water. As she approached the living room, she heard Stephen's voice, low and intimate. "I miss you too," he was saying. "It's been tough, but we just need to hang in there a little longer." Claire froze, her heart pounding. She peered around the corner, seeing Stephen pacing by the window, phone pressed to his ear. I know, he continued. "It's not fair to you, but we can't. Not yet, there's too much at stake." A pause, then a soft chuckle that sent chills down Claire's spine. "You're amazing, you know that? I don't know what I'd do without you, Nora." Nora. The mysterious N had a name. Claire retreated silently to the bedroom, her mind reeling. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture she had desperately tried to avoid seeing. Her husband, her partner of 12 years, was having an affair. The next morning, Claire woke to find Stephen already gone, a hastily scribbled note on his pillow. "Early meeting. Don't wait up tonight." As she sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the note, Claire felt something inside her harden. The sadness and confusion of the past weeks crystallized into a cold, sharp anger. She was fighting for her life, and her husband, the man who had vowed to stand by her in sickness and in health, was sneaking around with another woman. With trembling hands, Claire reached for her phone and dialed Sarah's number. "Hey," she said when her friend answered. "I need a favor. Can you come over?" An hour later, Sarah arrived, concern etched on her face. "Claire, what's going on? You sounded awful on the phone." Claire took a deep breath. "I think Stephen's cheating on me." Sarah's eyes widened. "What? Are you sure?" Claire recounted everything. The mysterious texts, the overheard phone call, Stephen's growing distance. As she spoke, she could see the anger building in her friend's eyes. "That bastard," Sarah hissed. "How dare he, while you're going through all this?" Claire nodded, feeling a strange calm settle over her. "I need to know for sure. I need proof." Sarah squeezed her hand. "What can I do?" "I need you to follow him," Claire said, her voice steady. "Find out where he goes, who he meets. Can you do that?" Sarah nodded without hesitation. "Consider it done. We'll get to the bottom of this, Claire, I promise." Over the next week, as Claire continued her grueling treatment schedule, Sarah became her eyes and ears. She reported Stephen's movements, the long lunches at upscale restaurants, the visits to a high-end apartment building downtown, the shopping trips to boutiques Claire had never set foot in. Each new piece of information was like a knife to Claire's heart. But it also fueled her determination. She was done being a victim of cancer, of Stephen's betrayal, of life's cruel twists. It was time to take control. One night, as Claire lay in bed pretending to sleep, she heard Stephen creep into the room. He changed quickly and slipped under the covers, careful not to disturb her. But instead of settling in beside her, he moved to the far edge of the bed, creating a chasm between them. Claire lay still, listening to Stephen's breathing even out as he drifted off to sleep. Once she was sure he was out, she carefully got up and made her way to his side of the bed. His phone lay on the nightstand, plugged in to charge. With a deep breath, Claire picked up the device. This was it, the moment of truth. She hesitated for a moment, her finger hovering over the power button. Did she really want to know? Could she handle the truth? But as she glanced back at Stephen's sleeping form, at the man who had once been her everything, Claire felt a surge of resolve. She deserved the truth. She deserved better than this. With a steady hand, Claire pressed the power button, watching as the screen came to life. It was time to uncover the full extent of Stephen's betrayal and to decide what she would do about it. As the phone's screen illuminated, Claire felt a mix of dread and determination course through her. She had come this far. There was no turning back now. Her fingers hovered over the device, poised to unlock the secrets that lay within. Just as she was about to swipe, a notification popped up on the screen. It was an email preview. Loan application, approval confirmation. Claire's brow furrowed. A loan. Stephen hadn't mentioned anything about needing a loan. Curiosity piqued. She tapped on the notification, grateful that Stephen had never been one for phone locks. The email opened, revealing a correspondence that made Claire's blood run cold. It was a confirmation for a substantial loan, nearly $500,000, taken out in both their names. But Claire had never signed anything, never even discussed such a loan with Stephen. Her hands shaking, Claire dug deeper. She found a folder labeled Personal tucked away in a hidden directory. Inside were documents she had never seen before, loan agreements, investment papers, and most shockingly, a copy of what appeared to be Claire's signature on several legal documents. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Stephen hadn't just been emotionally unfaithful, he had committed fraud, using her name and forged signature to secure massive amounts of money. Claire's mind raced. What was he planning to do with all that money? And why go to such lengths to hide it from her? As if in answer to her unspoken questions, a text message notification popped up on the screen. It was from Nora. "Can't wait for our fresh start, baby. Just a little longer, and we'll have everything we've dreamed of." The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Stephen wasn't just having an affair. He was planning to leave, to start a new life with this Nora, and he was using Claire's identity, her credit, to fund this new beginning. Anger, hot and fierce, surged through Claire. All those years of support, of putting Stephen's dreams before her own, and this was how he repaid her, by stealing her identity and planning to abandon her when she needed him most. With shaking hands, Claire began to document everything she found. She forwarded emails to herself, took screenshots of text conversations, and photographed the fraudulent documents. By the time she finished, the first light of dawn was creeping through the windows. Claire placed the phone back on the nightstand, exactly as she had found it. She looked at Stephen still sleeping peacefully, unaware that his carefully constructed house of lies was about to come crashing down. As she slipped back into bed, Claire's mind was racing. She needed a plan. She needed to protect herself, both legally and financially. But more than that, she needed justice. Claire closed her eyes, but sleep was far from her mind. Instead, she began to formulate a strategy. Stephen thought he could discard her. use her illness as an opportunity to start fresh with his young mistress. He was about to learn just how badly he had underestimated the woman he had vowed to love and cherish. As the sun rose over Minneapolis, casting long shadows across the bedroom, Claire made a vow of her own. She would fight, not just against the cancer ravaging her body, but against the betrayal that threatened to destroy her life. Stephen and his mistress had no idea what was coming. With a grim smile, Claire turned to look at her sleeping husband one last time. Let him rest, she thought. He would need his strength for what was to come. The game was about to change, and Claire intended to emerge victorious, in more ways than one. The early morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a pale glow across the bedroom. Claire lay still, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, her mind a tumultuous storm of emotions. The weight of her discoveries pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. She turned her head slightly, watching Stephen's peaceful slumber, marveling at how someone could sleep so soundly with such betrayal on their conscience. As Stephen's alarm blared to life, Claire quickly closed her eyes, feigning sleep. She felt the bed shift as he rose, heard his footsteps padding across the room, the soft click of the bathroom door. She waited until the shower started before opening her eyes again, her resolve hardening with each passing moment. When Stephen emerged, dressed in his crisp suit and polished shoes, Claire forced herself to sit up, mustering a weak smile. "Morning," she said, her voice carefully neutral. Stephen paused, seeming almost surprised to see her awake. "Oh, morning. How are you feeling today?" The concern in his voice felt like a mockery. How dare he pretend to care when he was planning to leave her? "I'm okay," Claire lied. "Just a bit tired. Big day at work." Stephen nodded, adjusting his tie. "Yeah, important meeting with some investors. Might be late again tonight." Claire bit back a bitter laugh. "Of course. Well, good luck with your meeting." If Stephen noticed the edge in her voice, he didn't show it. He grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door, pausing only to say, "Take care. Call if you need anything." As the front door closed behind him, Claire let out a shaky breath. The facade of normalcy felt suffocating. She reached for her phone, dialing Sarah's number. "Sarah? It's worse than we thought. Can you come over?" An hour later, Claire sat at her dining room table, a spread of documents before her. Sarah paced the room, her face a mask of fury as Claire recounted her discoveries. "That lying, cheating bastard!" Sarah exploded. "How could he do this to you, after everything you've been through together?" Claire rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. "I don't know. I keep trying to understand, to find some explanation that makes sense. But there's nothing. It's just cruel." Sarah stopped pacing, her expression softening as she looked at her friend. "Oh, Claire, I'm so sorry. What are you going to do?" Claire straightened in her chair, a determined glint in her eye. "I'm going to fight. For myself. For my future. Stephen thinks he can just discard me, use my illness as an opportunity to start fresh with his little mistress. He's about to learn how wrong he is." She picked up one of the documents, a loan agreement with both their names forged at the bottom. "First things first, I need to protect myself legally. This fraud, it's serious, Sarah. If I don't act quickly, I could be on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars." Sarah nodded, pulling out her phone. "I have a friend who's a lawyer, specializes in fraud cases. Let me give her a call." As Sarah stepped into the other room to make the call, Claire found herself staring at a photo on the mantel. It was from their wedding day. Stephen looking dashing in his tux, Claire radiant in white. They were laughing, eyes locked on each other, full of love and promise for the future, a future that now lay in ruins. Claire felt a tear slide down her cheek. She brushed it away angrily. No more tears, she told herself. It was time for action. Sarah returned, a determined look on her face. "Okay, my friend Melissa can see you this afternoon. She says to bring all the documentation you have. Are you up for it?" Claire nodded, gathering the papers. "Absolutely, let's go." The law offices of Melissa Goldstein were sleek and modern, with a view of the Minneapolis skyline that would have been breathtaking under different circumstances. Melissa, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, listened intently as Claire laid out her story, occasionally jotting notes on a legal pad. When Claire finished, Melissa leaned back in her chair, her expression grave. "Mrs. Donovan, I won't sugarcoat this. What your husband has done is not only a betrayal of your marriage, but a serious criminal offense. Identity theft, fraud, forgery, the list goes on. The good news is, We have solid evidence. The bad news is we need to move quickly to protect you. Claire nodded, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. What do we do first? Melissa outlined a plan of action, freezing joint accounts, securing Claire's personal assets, and gathering more evidence of Stephen's fraudulent activities. We'll also need to file a police report, Melissa added. Are you prepared for that? The thought of officially accusing Stephen of a crime made Claire's stomach churn, but she steeled herself. Yes, I'm ready. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity. Claire, with Sarah and Melissa's help, worked tirelessly to secure her finances and gather evidence. She opened new accounts in her name only, transferred what assets she could, and documented every piece of fraudulent activity she uncovered. All the while, Stephen remained oblivious. He continued his routine of late nights and vague excuses, never suspecting that his carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down. One evening, as Claire sat at her computer, combing through old emails for any additional evidence, a notification popped up. It was from an unfamiliar email address, but the subject line made her heart race. Thought you should know. With trembling fingers, Claire opened the email. Inside was a single line of text. Your husband is not who you think he is. Below was an attachment. Claire hesitated, her cursor hovering over the file. Did she really want to see what was inside? Could anything hurt more than what she already knew? Taking a deep breath, she clicked. The attachment opened to reveal a series of photos. Claire's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. There, in vivid color, was Stephen with a young woman. They were at a restaurant, their hands intertwined across the table. Another showed them entering a high-end apartment building, Stephen's arm around the woman's waist. The final photo made Claire's blood run cold. Stephen and the woman locked in a passionate embrace, oblivious to the world around them. Claire zoomed in on the woman's face, studying her features. She was beautiful, probably in her late 20s, with long blonde hair and a dazzling smile. This must be Nora, Claire thought bitterly. The other woman, the future Mrs. Stephen Donovan. As the initial shock wore off, Claire felt a new emotion rising within her. Rage. Pure, unadulterated fury at the injustice of it all. She had given Stephen everything. Her love, her support, her dreams. And this was how he repaid her. Claire's hands shook as she forwarded the email to Melissa, adding a short note. More evidence. What's our next move? Melissa's response came quickly. This is damning, Claire. I think it's time to confront Stephen, but we need to do it strategically. Come to my office first thing tomorrow. We'll plan our approach. Claire nodded to herself, a grim smile playing on her lips. Yes, it was time to confront Stephen. Time to show him that she wasn't the weak, dying woman he thought she was. Time to fight back. As if on cue, she heard the front door open. Stephen's voice called out, "Claire, you home?" Claire closed her laptop, schooling her features into a neutral expression. "In here," she called back. Stephen appeared in the doorway, looking tired but relaxed. "Hey," he said, loosening his tie. "How was your day?" Claire studied him, marveling at his ability to act so normal, so caring when he was living such a monumental lie. "Oh, you know," she said casually, "just the usual. How about you?" "Productive day." Stephen nodded, not meeting her eyes. "Yeah, pretty good. Listen, I've got an early meeting tomorrow. I think I'll turn in early." "Of course," Claire said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You must be exhausted from all your hard work." If Stephen noticed the sarcasm in her tone, he didn't show it. He simply nodded, heading for the stairs. "Good night, Claire." "Good night, Stephen," Claire called after him. "Sleep well." As his footsteps faded, Claire allowed her mask to slip, her face contorted with a mix of pain and determination. Tomorrow, she thought. Tomorrow everything changes. The next morning dawned bright and clear, a beautiful fall day in Minneapolis. Claire dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that made her feel strong and confident, a far cry from the sickly, vulnerable woman Stephen seemed to think she was. She arrived at Melissa's office early, her nerves on edge, but her resolve unshaken. Melissa greeted her with a reassuring smile, ushering her into a conference room where Sarah was already waiting. "Okay, Claire," Melissa began, spreading out a series of documents on the table. "Here's how we're going to approach this. We've gathered irrefutable evidence of Stephen's fraud and infidelity. Our goal today is not just to confront him, but to position ourselves for the legal battle ahead." Claire nodded, taking in the lawyer's words. "What exactly do you mean by position ourselves?" Melissa's eyes gleamed with a hint of steel. "We're going to give Stephen a choice. He can either agree to our terms, which include a full confession, financial restitution, and a divorce settlement heavily in your favor, or we take this to court. And believe me, with the evidence we have, he does not want this to go to court." Sarah reached out, squeezing Claire's hand. "You've got this, Claire. We're right here with you." Claire took a deep breath, feeling a surge of gratitude for these women who had become her pillars of strength. "Okay," she said, her voice steady. "Let's do this." They spent the next hour going over the plan, rehearsing what Claire would say, anticipating Stephen's possible reactions. By the time they finished, Claire felt ready, nervous but ready. As they prepared to leave, Melissa's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her eyebrows raising. "Well, this is interesting," she said, showing the screen to Claire. It was an email from the anonymous sender who had provided the photos of Stephen and Nora. This time there was no attachment, just a short message. "He's planning to leave the country next week. Act fast." Claire felt a chill run down her spine. So Stephen was planning to run, to abandon her completely, leaving her to deal with the aftermath of his crimes alone. "Change of plans," Melissa said, her voice sharp. "We need to move now. Sarah, can you get in touch with the police contact I gave you? We may need backup." Sarah nodded, already dialing. Claire stood, smoothing down her outfit, feeling a strange calm settle over her. This was it, the moment of truth. "Ready?" Melissa asked, gathering her files. Claire nodded, her jaw set in determination. More than ready. It's time Stephen learned that he messed with the wrong woman. As they left the office, Claire felt a mixture of emotions swirling within her. Anger, hurt, fear, but above all, a fierce determination. Stephen had underestimated her, had thought he could discard her like yesterday's trash. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. Claire climbed into Melissa's car, her heart pounding but her resolve unshaken. As they pulled away from the curb, heading towards the confrontation that would change everything, Claire allowed herself a small, grim smile. Let Stephen think he had the upper hand. Let him believe she was weak, defeated. He was in for one hell of a surprise. The drive to the Donovan residence felt both interminable and far too short. Claire watched the familiar streets of Minneapolis roll by, each turn bringing her closer to the moment that would define her future. Melissa drove in focused silence, occasionally glancing at Claire with a mix of concern and admiration. As they pulled up to the house, Claire spotted Stephen's car in the driveway. So he was home. Good. "Remember," Melissa said, turning to face Claire, "stay calm. Don't let him provoke you into saying anything that could be used against you later. We have the upper hand here." Claire nodded, taking a deep breath. "I'm ready." They approached the front door, and Claire used her key to enter. The house was quiet, but she could hear the faint sound of Stephen's voice coming from his home office. Claire and Melissa exchanged a look. Quietly, they made their way down the hallway, Claire's heart pounding so loudly she was sure Stephen would hear it. As they neared the office, Stephen's words became clearer. He was on the phone, his voice low and intimate. "Just a little longer, baby. I promise we'll be together soon. No, she doesn't suspect a thing. You know how she is. Too trusting for her own good." Claire felt a white-hot flash of anger. How dare he? How dare he speak about her that way, to the woman he was betraying her with? Before Melissa could stop her, Claire pushed open the office door. Stephen spun around, his face draining of color as he saw Claire and Melissa standing in the doorway. I'll call you back," he stammered into the phone before hanging up. For a moment the room was silent, the tension palpable. Stephen's eyes darted between Claire and Melissa, a mix of confusion and fear on his face. "Claire," he said, attempting a smile that came out more like a grimace. "What's going on? Who's this?" Claire stepped forward, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "This is Melissa Goldstein, my lawyer." Stephen's facade cracked, panic flashing in his eyes. "Lawyer, what are you talking about? Why do you need a lawyer?" Claire laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that seemed to surprise even her. "Oh, Stephen, did you really think I wouldn't find out? About Nora? About the fraud? About your plans to leave me high and dry while I fight for my life?" Stephen's face went through a rapid series of emotions: shock, guilt, anger, and finally, a cold calculation that made Claire's skin crawl. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "You're not well, Claire. The stress of your treatment must be—" "Don't you dare!" Claire interrupted, her voice trembling with fury. Don't you dare try to gaslight me, Stephen. I know everything. The affair, the loans you took out in my name, the plans to leave the country. Did you think I was too weak, too stupid to figure it out? Stephen's eyes narrowed, his posture shifting from defensive to aggressive. You've been going through my things, spying on me, that's... Melissa stepped forward, her professional demeanor a stark contrast to the emotional charge in the room. Mr. Donovan, I suggest you choose your next words very carefully. We have irrefutable evidence of your fraudulent activities and your infidelity. The police have been notified, and they're on their way. Your best course of action right now is to cooperate fully. Stephen's face paled further, his eyes darting to the door as if contemplating making a run for it. But Claire wasn't finished. How could you, Stephen? She asked, her voice breaking slightly. After everything we've been through together. I supported you, believed in you, put your dreams before my own, and this is how you repay me? By stealing from me? By planning to abandon me when I need you most? For a moment, Stephen's mask slipped, and Claire saw a flicker of the man she had fallen in love with all those years ago. Guilt, shame, and regret flashed across his face. Claire, he began, but seemed unable to find the words. Claire shook her head, cutting him off. Save it, Stephen. I don't want to hear your excuses or your apologies. They mean nothing now. She turned to Melissa, her voice steady once more. What are our options? Melissa stepped forward, all business. Mr. Donovan, here's the situation. We have enough evidence to ensure you'll be spending a significant amount of time in federal prison for fraud and identity theft. However, we're prepared to offer you a deal. Stephen's eyes widened, a mix of fear and hope on his face. What kind of deal? Full confession, financial restitution, a divorce settlement heavily in Claire's favor. In return, we may be able to negotiate with the prosecutor for a reduced sentence. Stephen sank into his chair, the full weight of his actions seemingly hitting him all at once. And if I refuse? Claire stepped forward, her voice cold. Then I'll see you in court, Stephen, and I promise you, I will fight with everything I have to see you pay for what you've done. The room fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Stephen looked from Claire to Melissa and back again, the reality of his situation clearly sinking in. Just then, the sound of sirens filled the air, growing louder as they approached the house. Stephen's face drained of color, his eyes widening in panic. Those would be the police, Melissa said calmly. Mr. Donovan, I suggest you make your decision quickly. Cooperate now or face the full consequences of your actions. Stephen slumped in his chair, the fight seeming to drain out of him. He looked at Claire, his eyes filled with a mixture of regret and resignation. I never meant for it to go this far, he said softly. Claire felt a surge of anger at his words. Didn't mean for it to go this far. What exactly did you mean, Stephen? To just abandon your sick wife? To steal her identity and leave her with nothing? Before Stephen could respond, there was a loud knock at the front door. Police, open up! Melissa moved towards the door. I'll let them in. Claire, stay here with your husband. Make sure he doesn't try anything foolish. As Melissa left the room, Claire and Stephen were left alone, the weight of years of betrayal hanging between them. Claire studied the man she had once loved more than anything in the world, trying to reconcile the Stephen she knew with the one who had been capable of such cruelty. Why, Stephen? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Just why? Stephen ran a hand through his hair, looking suddenly old and defeated. I don't know, Claire. I got scared. When you got sick, I couldn't handle it. And then Nora came along, and suddenly there was this opportunity for a fresh start, and You just decided to throw away 12 years of marriage, Claire finished for him, to betray me in the worst possible way. Stephen nodded, unable to meet her eyes. I'm sorry, Claire. I know it doesn't mean much now, but I'm truly sorry. The sound of footsteps approaching cut off any further conversation. Melissa entered the room, followed by 2 police officers. Mr. Stephen Donovan, one of the officers asked. Stephen nodded, his shoulders slumping in defeat. You're under arrest for fraud and identity theft. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. As the officer continued reading Stephen his rights, Claire watched with a mixture of sadness and relief. This was it. The end of her marriage, the end of the life she had known for so long. But as she watched the police lead Stephen away in handcuffs, Claire felt something else stirring within her, a sense of strength, of liberation. Stephen had betrayed her, had tried to destroy her, but she had fought back. She had survived. Melissa placed a gentle hand on Claire's shoulder. How you did it, Claire, it's over. Claire nodded, taking a deep breath. "No," she said, her voice steady and determined. "It's not over, it's just beginning." As the police car drove away, its sirens silent now, Claire stood in the doorway of the home she had shared with Stephen. She thought about the battles still ahead, her fight against cancer, the legal proceedings, rebuilding her life. But for the first time in months, she felt a glimmer of hope. Stephen had underestimated her, had thought her too weak to fight back. He had been wrong. Claire was stronger than he knew, stronger than she herself had realized, and she was ready to face whatever came next. With a final look at the life she was leaving behind, Claire closed the door. It was time to start anew, to focus on her health, her healing, and her future. A future that, for the first time in a long time, held the promise of something better. As she turned away from the house, Claire felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The road ahead would be challenging, but she was ready. Ready to fight, ready to live, ready to prove to the world and to herself just how resilient she truly was. The confrontation with Stephen marked a turning point in Claire's life. It was the moment she reclaimed her power, the moment she decided that neither cancer nor betrayal would define her future. As she walked away from the house that had once been her home, Claire felt a strange mix of emotions: sadness for what she had lost, anger at Stephen's betrayal, but also a growing sense of excitement for what lay ahead. The coming days and weeks would be filled with challenges, but Claire was prepared to face them head-on. She had a team of supporters, Sarah, Melissa, her doctors, and a newfound determination that burned brighter than ever before. As the sun began to set over Minneapolis, casting long shadows across the neighborhood, Claire took a deep breath of the crisp autumn air. For the first time in months, she felt truly alive. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Claire Donovan was a fighter, and her story was far from over. The days following Stephen's arrest passed in a blur for Claire. The quiet of the house, once a comfort, now felt oppressive. Every corner held memories of the life she thought she had, the love she believed was real. But as the initial shock began to wear off, Claire found herself filled with a strange mix of grief and determination. One crisp morning, as the fall leaves danced outside her window, Claire's phone buzzed with a message from Melissa. "Stephen's agreed to meet. Today at 2 p.m. my office. Are you ready?" Claire stared at the message, her heart racing. Was she ready? Could anyone ever be truly ready to face the person who had betrayed them so completely? "I'll be there," she typed back, her fingers trembling slightly. As Claire entered Melissa's office that afternoon, she felt a surge of nervous energy. The room was tense, Stephen already seated across from Melissa, his lawyer by his side. He looked up as Claire entered, his face a mask of guilt and fear. "Claire," he started, but Melissa held up a hand, silencing him. "Mr. Donovan, you're here to listen, not to speak," Melissa said firmly. She turned to Claire. "Whenever you're ready." Claire took a deep breath, steadying herself. She looked directly at Stephen, the man she had once loved more than anything in the world. "I've spent days trying to understand, Stephen, trying to figure out how the man I married, the man I supported through thick and thin, could do this to me. But I realize now that it doesn't matter. Your reasons, your excuses, they're meaningless." Stephen flinched at her words, but Claire pressed on. "You didn't just betray our marriage. You betrayed every moment we shared, every sacrifice I made for you. You stole from me, lied to me, and planned to abandon me when I needed you most. And for what? A younger woman? A fresh start?" Claire's voice cracked slightly, but she steeled herself, drawing strength from the anger that had been building within her. "Well, congratulations, Stephen. You've got your fresh start, but it's not the one you planned. You're going to face the consequences of your actions. Every single one." Melissa took over, laying out the terms of their agreement. Stephen would plead guilty to the fraud charges, avoiding a lengthy trial but ensuring a significant prison sentence. He would forfeit all rights to their shared assets and pay substantial restitution. As Melissa spoke, Claire watched Stephen's face. She saw the moment reality truly hit him, saw the dawning horror as he realized the full extent of what he had lost. When Melissa finished, the room fell silent. All eyes turned to Stephen. "Do you understand and agree to these terms, Mr. Donovan?" Melissa asked. Stephen looked at Claire one last time, his eyes pleading, but Claire's gaze remained steady, unyielding. Finally, Stephen nodded. "Yes," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I agree." As they left the office, Claire felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It wasn't over. There were still legal proceedings to come, financial matters to sort out, but she had faced her betrayer, had looked him in the eye, and refused to be a victim. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Claire worked closely with Melissa to untangle the web of financial deceit Stephen had woven. It was a daunting task, but with each document signed, each account reclaimed, Claire felt a growing sense of empowerment. One afternoon, as they pored over bank statements, Melissa looked up at Claire with admiration. "You know, Claire, I've seen a lot of people go through similar situations, but I've rarely seen someone handle it with as much grace and strength as you have." Claire smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes for the first time in months. "I don't always feel strong," she admitted, "but I refuse to let Stephen's actions define me. I'm more than what he did to me." As Claire focused on rebuilding her life, she found an unexpected ally in her battle against cancer. Dr. Patel called her in for an appointment, excitement evident in her voice. "Claire, I have some potentially great news," Dr. Patel said, as Claire settled into the chair across from her. "There's a new experimental treatment that I think you might be a perfect candidate for." Claire listened intently as Dr. Patel explained the treatment, a combination of immunotherapy and targeted gene therapy that had shown promising results in early trials. "It's not without risks," Dr. Patel cautioned, "and there's no guarantee it will work, but given the aggressive nature of your cancer, I believe it's worth considering." Claire thought about it. A year ago, she might have hesitated, might have looked to Stephen for guidance, but now she felt a surge of determination. This was her life, her battle to fight. "Let's do it," she said firmly. "I'm ready to fight this with everything I've got." The treatment was grueling. There were days when Claire could barely get out of bed, her body racked with pain and nausea. But she persevered, drawing strength from the support of Sarah, who was by her side through every appointment, every setback. And slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, things began to change. The constant fatigue that had plagued her began to lift. Her appetite returned, and at her next scan, Dr. Patel's face lit up with cautious optimism. "The tumors have shrunk, Claire," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "It's still early and we have a long way to go, but this is incredibly promising." Claire felt a surge of hope, a feeling she had almost forgotten. As she left the hospital that day, she paused, looking up at the clear blue sky. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly alive. That evening, as Claire sat on her porch, watching the sunset paint the Minneapolis skyline in hues of orange and pink, she reflected on the journey of the past few months. She had lost so much, her marriage, her sense of security, her health, but she had also gained something invaluable, a deeper understanding of her own strength, her resilience. Her phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Dinner tomorrow to celebrate the good news? The whole gang wants to toast to your badassery." Claire smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She had lost a husband, but she had gained a family. Friends who had stood by her through the darkest times, who had believed in her when she struggled to believe in herself. As she typed out a reply, Claire felt a sense of anticipation for what the future might hold. The road ahead was still uncertain, but she was no longer afraid. She had faced betrayal, fought cancer, and come out stronger. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Claire knew she could face them. The next morning, Claire woke early, feeling an energy she hadn't experienced in months. She decided to take a walk, something that had once been a daily ritual, but had become impossible as her health declined. As she strolled through her neighborhood, the crisp autumn air filling her lungs, Claire found herself noticing details she had overlooked before. The vibrant colors of the changing leaves, the cheerful chirping of birds, the warm smiles of neighbors as they passed by. Halfway through her walk, Claire's phone rang. It was Melissa. "Claire, I have some news," Melissa said, her voice serious. "Stephen's sentencing hearing has been scheduled. It's next month." Claire felt a flutter of anxiety in her stomach, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of resolve. "Thank you for letting me know, Melissa. Will I need to be there?" "You have the option to deliver a victim impact statement if you wish," Melissa explained. "It's completely up to you. Take some time to think about it." As Claire continued her walk, she mulled over Melissa's words. The idea of facing Stephen again, of speaking about the impact of his betrayal in front of a courtroom full of strangers, was daunting. But there was also a part of her that yearned for that final moment of closure. Later that day, as Claire prepared for her dinner with friends, She found herself standing in front of her closet, surveying her options. Her eyes fell on a dress she hadn't worn in years, a vibrant blue number that had always made her feel confident and beautiful. On impulse, she pulled it out and slipped it on. To her surprise, it fit perfectly. As she looked at herself in the mirror, Claire barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Gone was the sickly pallor, the defeated slump of her shoulders. In its place was a woman who stood tall, her eyes bright with life and determination. The dinner that night was filled with laughter and joy. As Claire looked around the table at the friends who had become her family, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. Sarah raised her glass in a toast. "To Claire," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "The strongest, bravest, most inspiring woman I know. You faced the unimaginable with grace and courage, and we are all in awe of you." As everyone clinked glasses, Claire felt tears prick at her eyes. But for the first time in a long time, they were tears of happiness. The next few weeks flew by in a whirlwind of activity. Claire continued her treatment, each day bringing new signs of improvement. She threw herself into physical therapy, determined to regain the strength she had lost. She also made a decision about Stephen's sentencing hearing. After much reflection, Claire decided she would deliver a victim impact statement, not for Stephen's benefit, but for her own, a final act of reclaiming her narrative. The day of the hearing arrived, crisp and clear. As Claire entered the courthouse, she felt a mix of emotions, nervousness, anger, but also a sense of empowerment. She had prepared her statement carefully, each word a testament to her journey. When it was her turn to speak, Claire approached the podium, her head held high. She looked directly at Stephen, seated at the defendant's table, as she began to speak. "Your Honor, I stand before you today not as a victim, but as a survivor. The man seated here today, the man I once called my husband, tried to destroy me. He betrayed my trust, stole my identity, and planned to abandon me at the moment I needed him most." Claire paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "But he failed, because what he didn't realize, what I didn't realize until I was forced to fight for my life in more ways than one, is that I am stronger than any betrayal, any illness, any attempt to break me." As Claire continued her statement, she saw Stephen's shoulders slump, saw the weight of his actions finally settle upon him. But Claire wasn't speaking for him anymore. She was speaking for herself, for every person who had ever been betrayed, for every cancer patient fighting for their life. "I stand here today, Your Honor, not seeking vengeance but justice. And more than that, I stand here as living proof that it is possible to face the unimaginable and come out stronger on the other side." As Claire finished her statement, a hush fell over the courtroom. She returned to her seat, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. Whatever sentence Stephen received, she had said her piece. She had reclaimed her story. The judge's sentence was harsh. Years in federal prison, hefty fines, restitution payments. As the bailiff led Stephen away, he turned to look at Claire one last time. But Claire didn't meet his gaze. She was already looking ahead, to the future that awaited her. That evening, as Claire sat on her porch watching the sunset, she felt a profound sense of closure. The chapter of her life that included Stephen was truly over. But rather than feeling sad or lost, Claire felt a sense of excitement for what lay ahead. Her phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Patel. "Great news from your latest tests. The treatment is working better than we could have hoped. Keep fighting, Claire. You're winning." Claire smiled, feeling a surge of hope and determination. She had faced betrayal and emerged stronger. She was fighting cancer and winning. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Claire was excited to see what it held. As the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, Claire made a silent promise to herself. She would continue to fight, to grow, to live every day to its fullest. Because she was Claire Donovan, survivor, fighter, and now, finally, the author of her own story. The cool evening breeze carried the scent of autumn, a reminder of the changing seasons. For Claire, it felt symbolic of the transformation in her own life. As she sat on her porch, reflecting on the tumultuous journey of the past months, she felt a deep sense of peace settling over her. The neighborhood was quiet, save for the distant laughter of children playing and the occasional car passing by. Claire closed her eyes, savoring the moment. She thought about how far she had come, from the depths of betrayal and illness to this point of strength and hope. Her mind wandered to the experimental treatment that had given her a new lease on life. Dr. Patel's words echoed in her mind. The treatment is working better than we could have hoped. It felt like a miracle, a second chance she hadn't dared to hope for in her darkest moments. Claire opened her eyes, gazing at the darkening sky. Stars were beginning to appear, twinkling faintly against the twilight. She remembered nights spent stargazing with Stephen in the early years of their marriage, dreaming of the future they would build together. The memory no longer brought pain, only a bittersweet acknowledgement of a chapter closed. Her phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was a message from Sarah. "Just checking in. How are you feeling after today?" Claire smiled, typing out a response. "I'm good. Really good. For the first time in a long time, I feel free." As she hit send, Claire realized the truth in her words. She was free. Free from the weight of Stephen's betrayal, free from the fear that had gripped her since her diagnosis. She wasn't naive enough to think that all her troubles were over, but she felt equipped to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Standing up, Claire stretched, feeling the pleasant ache in her muscles from her morning walk. Her body was growing stronger every day, a physical manifestation of her inner resilience. She made her way inside, the house no longer feeling empty, but full of possibilities. In the kitchen, Claire poured herself a glass of herbal tea, a new habit she'd picked up during her treatment. As she waited for it to cool, she found herself drawn to the refrigerator, where a calendar hung. She'd been marking off her treatment days, a visual representation of her fight against cancer. With a steady hand, Claire drew a bold red circle around a date 2 weeks from now. Her next scan, the one that could potentially confirm the success of her treatment. She felt a flutter of nervous excitement in her stomach, but it was tempered by a newfound confidence. Whatever the results, she would face them head-on. As she sipped her tea, Claire's gaze fell on a stack of papers on the counter, brochures for various support groups and counseling services. Melissa had provided them, gently suggesting that Claire might find them helpful in processing everything she'd been through. Claire picked up one of the brochures, a support group for cancer survivors. She'd been hesitant about the idea of group therapy, but now, feeling stronger and more self-assured, she felt ready to take that step. Perhaps sharing her story could help others find the strength she had discovered within herself. With a decisive nod, Claire pulled out her phone and dialed the number on the brochure. As she waited for someone to answer, she felt a surge of anticipation. This was another step forward, another way of reclaiming her life and turning her painful experiences into something positive. After making arrangements to attend the next support group meeting, Claire felt a renewed sense of purpose. Her journey wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about thriving, about using her experiences to help others who might be facing similar challenges. As the evening wore on, Claire found herself drawn to her home office, a room she had avoided since discovering Stephen's betrayal. It was time to reclaim this space, to transform it from a place of painful memories into a symbol of her new beginning. She spent the next few hours reorganizing, clearing out old papers and rearranging furniture. As she worked, she felt as though she was clearing out the last vestiges of her old life, making room for new dreams and aspirations. By the time she finished, the room was transformed. Gone were the reminders of Stephen and the life they had shared. In their place were vision boards filled with inspirational quotes and images of places she hoped to visit, books on topics she'd always wanted to explore, and a new, sleek laptop, a gift to herself, a tool for the future she was determined to build. Exhausted but satisfied, Claire sank into the comfortable armchair she'd moved into the corner of the office. She pulled out a notebook, another new purchase, and began to write. At first, the words came slowly, hesitantly, but soon they were flowing freely as Claire poured out her thoughts, her fears, her hopes for the future. As she wrote, Claire felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. She was no longer the woman who had been betrayed, who had felt her life slipping away in the face of a devastating diagnosis. She was Claire Donovan, survivor, fighter, and now author of her own story. The clock on the wall chimed midnight, startling Claire from her writing. She looked down at the pages filled with her neat handwriting, a roadmap of her journey and her dreams for the future. Something stirred within her, a spark of inspiration, a new purpose taking shape. As she closed the notebook, Claire made a decision. She would turn her experiences into something meaningful, something that could help others facing similar struggles. Perhaps a book, or a blog, or even speaking engagements. The details were hazy, but the desire to make a difference burned bright. With a yawn, Claire realized how late it had gotten. As she prepared for bed, she caught her reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back at her was different from the one she'd seen just months ago. Her eyes were brighter, her posture straighter, her whole demeanor radiating a quiet strength. As she slipped under the covers, Claire felt a sense of anticipation for what the next day might bring. For the first time in a long time, she was looking forward to the future, eager to see what opportunities and challenges it might hold. Just as she was drifting off to sleep, her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Dr. Patel. "Claire, I've been reviewing your latest test results. The progress is remarkable. If you're feeling up to it, I'd like to move your next scan up. The sooner we confirm the treatment's success, the sooner we can adjust your care plan. Let me know if you're available tomorrow afternoon." Claire's heart raced as she read the message. Could it be possible? Was she really beating this thing? With shaking hands, she typed out a reply. "I'll be there. Thank you, Dr. Patel." As she set her phone down, Claire felt a mix of excitement and nervousness wash over her. Tomorrow could be the day that changed everything, but whatever the results, she knew she was ready to face them. Claire closed her eyes, a small smile playing on her lips. As sleep began to claim her, she held on to that feeling of hope, letting it carry her into dreams of a future bright with possibility. The first light of dawn was just beginning to creep through the curtains when Claire awoke the next morning. Despite the early hour, she felt refreshed and energized, the anticipation of the day ahead driving away any lingering drowsiness. As she went through her morning routine, Claire found herself humming softly, a habit she had all but forgotten in the dark days following her diagnosis and Stephen's betrayal. It was a simple tune, one her grandmother used to sing, and it filled her with a sense of warmth and nostalgia. After a light breakfast, her appetite had been steadily improving. Claire decided to go for a walk before her appointment with Dr. Patel. The neighborhood was quiet at this hour, the streets bathed in the soft, golden light of early morning. As she walked, Claire allowed her mind to wander, thinking about the potential outcomes of today's scan. She knew better than to get her hopes up too high, but she couldn't help feeling a sense of optimism. Regardless of the results, she was proud of how far she had come, both in her fight against cancer and in reclaiming her life after Stephen's betrayal. Returning home, Claire took her time getting ready for the appointment. She chose an outfit that made her feel confident and strong, a far cry from the baggy, comfortable clothes she had relied on during the worst of her treatment. As she was about to leave, Claire paused in front of the mirror in her entryway. She took a deep breath, meeting her own gaze. "Whatever happens today," she said to her reflection, "you've got this. You're stronger than you know." The drive to the hospital was a blur of familiar streets and buildings. Claire found herself gripping the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white with tension. She forced herself to relax, focusing on her breathing, the way she had learned in her meditation classes. In the hospital parking lot, Claire sat in her car for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Her phone buzzed with messages of support from Sarah and her other friends. Their words brought a smile to her face and gave her the final push she needed to face whatever news awaited her. The hospital corridors seemed endless as Claire made her way to Dr. Patel's office. The smell of disinfectant, once so oppressive, now barely registered. This place, which had been the site of so much fear and pain, had also become a place of hope and healing. Dr. Patel greeted Claire with a warm smile, her eyes twinkling with barely contained excitement. "Claire, thank you for coming in on such short notice. How are you feeling?" "Nervous," Claire admitted with a small laugh, "but ready. Whatever the results, I'm ready." Dr. Patel nodded approvingly. "That's the attitude that's gotten you this far. Now, let's take a look at these scans, shall we?" As Dr. Patel pulled up the images on her computer screen, Claire held her breath. She'd seen enough of these scans over the past months to have a general idea of what she was looking at, but the medical details were still beyond her comprehension. Dr. Patel studied the images intently, her expression unreadable. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the soft hum of the computer and the pounding of Claire's heart in her ears. Finally, Dr. Patel turned to Claire, a broad smile breaking across her face. "Claire, I don't want to overstate things, but these results are nothing short of remarkable." Claire leaned forward, her eyes wide. "What do you mean?" "The tumors have shrunk significantly. In fact, in some areas, they've disappeared entirely. Claire, You're responding to the treatment better than we could have ever hoped." The words washed over Claire like a wave, leaving her breathless. Are you saying I'm in remission?" Dr. Patel held up a cautioning hand. "It's too early to use that word officially. We'll need to continue monitoring you closely. But Claire, this is the best possible news we could have hoped for at this stage. The treatment is working, and your body is fighting back with everything it's got." Tears sprang to Claire's eyes, a mix of relief, joy, and overwhelming emotion. "I can't believe it," she whispered. Dr. Patel reached out, squeezing Claire's hand. "Believe it. You've fought so hard for this, Claire. You should be incredibly proud of yourself." As the full impact of Dr. Patel's words sank in, Claire felt a surge of emotions she couldn't quite name. It was as if a weight she had been carrying for so long was finally beginning to lift. "What happens now?" Claire asked, her voice trembling slightly. "We'll continue with the current treatment plan for now," Dr. Patel explained. "We'll do more frequent scans to monitor your progress closely. If things continue this way, we may be able to start discussing long-term remission strategies sooner than we had hoped." As Claire left the hospital, she felt as though she were walking on air. The world around her seemed brighter somehow, more vivid. She pulled out her phone, her fingers shaking slightly as she dialed Sarah's number. "Sarah, it's me. I have news. Good news. Can you meet me?" An hour later, Claire sat across from Sarah in their favorite cafe, recounting Dr. Patel's words. Sarah listened intently, tears glistening in her eyes. "Oh, Claire," Sarah said, reaching across the table to grasp her friend's hands. "I'm so happy for you. You deserve this. After everything you've been through, you deserve this moment." As they talked, Claire felt a sense of possibility unfurling within her. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to think about the future, not just in terms of survival, but in terms of living, truly living. "You know," Claire said, a thoughtful expression on her face, "I've been thinking. All of this, the cancer, Stephen's betrayal, it's changed me. And I think maybe I want to do something with that, to help other people who are going through similar things." Sarah nodded encouragingly. "I think that's a wonderful idea. You have so much strength, so much wisdom to share." As they continued to talk, making plans and dreaming of the future, Claire felt a sense of peace settle over her. The road ahead was still long, still uncertain in many ways, but she was ready for it, ready to face whatever came next with the same strength and resilience that had brought her this far. As the afternoon sun streamed through the cafe window, Claire raised her cup in a small toast. "To new beginnings," she said softly. Sarah clinked her cup against Claire's. "To new beginnings," she echoed. "And to you, Claire, the strongest person I know." Claire smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the tea she was drinking. She had faced the darkest moments of her life and emerged stronger. Now, with her health improving and a new purpose taking shape, she was ready to embrace whatever the future might hold. As they left the cafe, stepping out into the crisp autumn air, Claire took a deep breath. The world seemed full of possibilities, and for the first time in a long time, she felt truly, vibrantly alive. As Claire's life began to take a turn for the better, Stephen Donovan's world was crumbling around him. The day of his sentencing had marked the beginning of a downward spiral that seemed to have no bottom. The courtroom had been packed, the air thick with tension as the judge delivered his verdict. Stephen sat rigidly in his chair, his once impeccable suit now hanging loosely on his frame, his eyes sunken and haunted. "Mr. Donovan," the judge began, his voice stern and unyielding, "the crimes you have committed are not only a betrayal of the law, but a betrayal of the most fundamental human bonds. You have broken the trust of the woman who stood by you, who supported you through thick and thin. You have abused your position and stolen not just money, but hope and security from the person who should have been able to rely on you the most." Stephen's lawyer placed a hand on his arm, a gesture meant to be comforting but which Stephen barely registered. His eyes were fixed on a point in the distance, his mind struggling to comprehend how he had ended up here. "Taking into account the severity of your crimes, the premeditated nature of your actions, and the devastating impact on the victim, I hereby sentence you to 8 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release." The gavel's bang echoed through the courtroom, sealing Stephen's fate. As the bailiff approached to lead him away, Stephen's eyes frantically scanned the courtroom, landing finally on Claire. She sat in the back, her face a mask of calm determination. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Stephen saw something in Claire's gaze that broke him more than the sentence ever could: indifference. As he was led out of the courtroom, Stephen's mind raced. 8 years. 8 years of his life, gone. His career, his reputation, his future, all destroyed by his own hand. The first few weeks in prison were a blur of processing, orientation, and the harsh reality of his new life setting in. Stephen, once a respected engineer with a corner office, now found himself in a 688 cell, sharing space with a man convicted of armed robbery. It was during his 3rd week, as he sat in the prison's common area, that the final blow came. A guard approached, holding an envelope. "Donovan," the guard called out gruffly, "mail for you." Stephen took the envelope with trembling hands. He recognized Nora's handwriting immediately, and for a moment, a flicker of hope ignited in his chest. Nora, his beacon of light in this darkness. Nora, for whom he had risked everything. He tore open the envelope, his eyes devouring the words, "Stephen, I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. When we started this relationship, it was exciting, an escape. You promised me a future, a life of luxury and freedom. But now all I see is a man who betrayed his wife, who stole and lied. I realize now that if you could do that to someone who loved you for years, what would stop you from doing the same to me? I've met someone else, someone who doesn't come with all this baggage, all this guilt. I hope you can understand. Please don't try to contact me again. Goodbye, Stephen." Nora. The letter slipped from Stephen's numb fingers, floating to the floor like a dead leaf. He sat there, motionless, as the reality of his situation crashed over him in waves. He had lost everything: his freedom, his career, his wife, and now, the woman for whom he had thrown it all away. That night, lying on his hard prison bunk, Stephen felt the full weight of his actions descend upon him. The darkness that had been creeping at the edges of his mind for weeks now engulfed him completely. Sleep eluded him, replaced by an endless parade of memories. Claire's face when she confronted him with his betrayal, the look of disgust in his colleague's eyes as he was led out of the office in handcuffs, Nora's words of rejection echoing in his head. The days that followed blurred together, a monotonous cycle of meals, work assignments, and long hours of introspection. Stephen found himself replaying every decision, every moment that had led him to this point. The first time he had lied to Claire about working late when he was really meeting Nora, the rush of excitement he had felt when he first transferred money from their joint account to his secret one, the way he had justified every betrayal, every theft, by telling himself that he deserved more, that Claire was holding him back. Now, stripped of everything, Stephen was forced to confront the ugly truth of who he had become. The realization was devastating. It was during his 4th month in prison that Stephen hit rock bottom. The prison psychiatrist had prescribed him antidepressants, but they did little to quell the storm raging in his mind. One night, as his cellmate snored softly in the bunk below, Stephen made a decision. Using a sharpened plastic spoon he had carefully crafted over weeks, Stephen began to saw at his wrists. The pain was sharp, immediate, but it paled in comparison to the emotional agony he had been enduring. As blood began to trickle down his arms, Stephen closed his eyes, hoping for an end to the torment. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. His cellmate, waking for a late-night bathroom trip, saw the blood and immediately called for help. Guards rushed in, medical staff was summoned, and Stephen was whisked away to the prison infirmary. As he lay there, wrists bandaged, under the harsh fluorescent lights of the infirmary, Stephen felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. He had tried to end it all, to escape the consequences of his actions, and he had failed, just as he had failed at everything else. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the barred windows of the infirmary, a guard approached Stephen's bed. "Donovan," the guard said, his voice gruff but not unkind, "you've got a visitor." Stephen's heart leapt. Could it be Nora? Had she heard about his suicide attempt and had a change of heart? Or perhaps his parents finally breaking their silence? But as he was led to the visitation area, his steps faltering and weak from blood loss, Stephen saw a familiar figure waiting for him. Claire. She sat at the metal table, her back straight, her face a careful mask of neutrality. As Stephen was guided to his seat across from her, he searched her eyes for some hint of emotion, anger, pity, anything. But Claire's gaze was steady, revealing nothing. "Hello, Stephen," she said, her voice soft but firm. Stephen opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. What could he possibly say to this woman he had wronged so deeply? Claire took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly on the table in front of her. "I heard about what happened. Your attempt." Stephen looked down at his bandaged wrists, shame washing over him. "Claire, No, Stephen," Claire interrupted, holding up a hand. "I'm not here for your apologies or explanations. I'm here because, despite everything, I needed to see for myself that you were okay." Stephen felt tears pricking at his eyes. After everything he had done, Claire still cared enough to check on him. The realization made him feel even worse. "I don't deserve your concern," he mumbled, unable to meet her gaze. "This isn't about what you deserve, Stephen," Claire said, her voice taking on a hint of steel. "This is about me. About the fact that, for better or worse, you were a part of my life for over a decade. I needed to see you to understand." Stephen finally looked up, really seeing Claire for the first time since she had entered. She looked different, healthier, stronger. There was a light in her eyes that he hadn't seen in years, long before her cancer diagnosis. "You look well," he said softly. A small smile played at the corners of Claire's mouth. "I am well. My latest scans..." "The cancer's in remission, Stephen. I'm going to be okay." The news hit Stephen like a physical blow. Claire, who he had been ready to abandon in her darkest hour, was beating the odds. While his life fell apart, she was putting hers back together. That's wonderful, Claire. I'm so happy for you." The words felt inadequate, but they were sincere. Claire nodded, acknowledging his words. "I've had a lot of time to think, Stephen. About us. About what happened. And I need you to understand something." Stephen leaned forward slightly, hanging on her every word. "I am not your victim," Claire said, her voice strong and clear. "What you did was terrible, unforgivable even, but I refuse to let it define me. I refuse to let you define me." Stephen felt a lump forming in his throat. "Claire, I'm so sorry. For everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that I regret every decision I made, every lie I told." Claire's expression softened slightly. "I believe you, Stephen. But you're right, it doesn't change anything. What's done is done. We can't go back." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history hanging between them. "Why did you come, Claire?" Stephen finally asked. "After everything I did, why bother?" Claire took a deep breath, considering her words carefully. "I came because I needed closure, Stephen. I needed to see you, to talk to you, one last time, to say goodbye properly." Stephen felt his heart constrict. "Goodbye?" Claire nodded. "Yes, goodbye. Stephen, I've moved on. I'm building a new life for myself, one where I'm not defined by my relationship with you or by my illness. I'm writing a book, sharing my story to help others who have been through similar experiences." As Claire spoke, Stephen saw a transformation come over her. She sat up straighter, her eyes shining with purpose and determination. "I forgive you, Stephen," Claire said, her words hitting him like a thunderbolt. "Not for your sake, but for mine. Carrying around anger and resentment was only hurting me. So I'm letting it go. I'm letting you go." Stephen felt tears sliding down his cheeks, unchecked. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, Claire." "Maybe not," Claire agreed. "But that's not the point. I'm not forgiving you to make you feel better. I'm doing it so I can move forward, unburdened by the past." She stood up, smoothing down her blouse. "This is goodbye, Stephen. I truly hope you find a way to make peace with yourself, to rebuild your life when you get out of here. But that's not my concern anymore. My life is waiting for me, and I intend to live it to the fullest." Stephen watched speechless as Claire turned to leave. At the last moment she paused, looking back at him. "Take care of yourself, Stephen," she said softly, and then she was gone, the door closing behind her with a final sounding click. Stephen sat there long after Claire had left, his mind reeling. He had expected anger, resentment, perhaps even gloating over his downfall. But this calm strength, this forgiveness, was something he had never anticipated. As he was led back to his cell, Stephen felt something shift inside him. The darkness that had been his constant companion these past months seemed to recede slightly. In its place, a tiny spark of something he hadn't felt in a long time began to glow. Hope. Claire's words echoed in his mind. I refused to let it define me. If she could move on, could rebuild her life from the ashes he had left behind, then maybe, just maybe, he could find a way to do the same. That night, For the first time since his imprisonment, Stephen slept without nightmares, and when he woke the next morning, he made a decision. He would use his time here to reflect, to understand how he had gone so wrong, and to find a way to become a person worthy of the second chance he had been given. As Stephen began his long journey towards redemption, Claire stepped out of the prison gates, blinking in the bright sunlight. She took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the crisp autumn air. The weight she had been carrying for so long, the last vestiges of her old life with Stephen, seemed to lift from her shoulders. She walked to her car, each step feeling lighter than the last. As she settled into the driver's seat, Claire caught sight of her reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back at her was strong, confident, unbowed by the trials she had faced. With a small smile, Claire started the engine. The road ahead was open, full of possibilities. She had faced betrayal, fought cancer, and come out stronger on the other side. Now it was time to embrace the future, whatever it might hold. As Claire drove away from the prison, leaving Stephen and the past behind, she felt a sense of excitement building within her. Her book was taking shape, her health was improving, and she had a newfound purpose in life. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had led her here, to a place of strength, resilience, and hope. The Minneapolis skyline came into view as Claire neared the city. The familiar sight filled her with a sense of homecoming, not to a place, but to herself. She was Claire Donovan, survivor, fighter, and now finally the author of her own story. As she merged onto the highway, heading towards the life she had fought so hard to reclaim, Claire felt a surge of gratitude. For her strength, for her friends who had stood by her, for the lessons she had learned along the way, but most of all, for the future that lay ahead, a future that was hers to shape, unburdened by the shadows of the past. The road stretched out before her, a metaphor for the journey still to come. Claire pressed down on the accelerator, a smile playing on her lips. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. After all, she had already conquered the impossible. Now it was time to see just how far she could go. As the city grew larger in her windshield, Claire felt a sense of coming full circle. She had left this place a broken woman, betrayed, and battling a deadly disease. Now she was returning, not just healed in body, but stronger in spirit than she had ever been. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "How did it go? Are you okay?" At the next red light, Claire quickly typed out a response. "It went well. I'm more than okay. I'm free." As she hit send, Claire realized the truth in those words. She was free. Free from the pain of betrayal, free from the fear of her illness, free to write the next chapter of her life exactly as she chose. The light turned green, and Claire accelerated, leaving behind the last vestiges of her old life. Ahead lay possibility, purpose, and the promise of new beginnings. Claire was ready to embrace it all, with open arms and an open heart. As the familiar streets of her neighborhood came into view, Claire felt a sense of homecoming. But it wasn't just a return to a physical place, it was a return to herself, the self she had always been capable of being, now unburdened by doubt and fear. She pulled into her driveway, taking a moment to sit in the car and reflect on the journey that had brought her to this point. From the devastation of Stephen's betrayal to the terror of her cancer diagnosis, through the grueling treatments and the long nights of uncertainty, to this moment of triumph and renewal. As she stepped out of the car, Claire's phone buzzed again. This time, it was an email from her publisher. "Claire, I've just finished reading the first draft of your manuscript. I'm speechless. Your story is powerful, raw, and incredibly inspiring. We're excited to move forward with the publication process. Your words are going to touch so many lives. Let's set up a meeting next week to discuss the next steps. Best, Emily." Claire read the email twice, a warmth spreading through her chest. Her story, her struggle, her triumph, it was all going to mean something beyond just her own life. She had taken her pain and transformed it into something that could help others, could inspire them to find their own strength in the face of adversity. As she walked up to her front door, Claire paused, her hand on the doorknob. She turned, looking back at the street where she had lived for so many years. It was the same view she had seen countless times before, but today it looked different, brighter somehow, full of promise. Claire smiled to herself. This was more than just a homecoming. It was a new beginning. She opened the door and stepped inside, ready to embrace whatever the future might hold. The Claire who had left this house earlier that day, the Claire who had still carried the weight of Stephen's betrayal, who had still felt the need for that final confrontation, was gone. In her place stood a woman who had faced her past, conquered her fears, and was now ready to step boldly into her future. A woman who had learned that true strength comes not from never falling, but from rising every time you fall. A woman who had discovered that the most powerful form of revenge is not punishment, but living well. As Claire moved through her house, she saw it with new eyes. The spaces that had once felt empty now seemed full of potential. The silence that had once been oppressive now felt peaceful, contemplative. She made her way to her office, where her laptop sat on the desk, the manuscript of her book still open on the screen. Claire settled into her chair, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. There was still work to be done, chapters to refine, experiences to articulate. But now, after her final meeting with Stephen, she felt she had the missing piece, the true ending to her story. Claire began to type, the words flowing freely. Forgiveness is not about forgetting the past or excusing the inexcusable. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. It's about reclaiming your power and choosing your own path forward. Today, I chose forgiveness. Not for him, but for me. And in doing so, I found the strength to truly let go and embrace my future. As she wrote, Claire felt a sense of catharsis wash over her. Every word on the page was a step further from her past and deeper into the life she was creating for herself. Hours passed, the soft glow of her desk lamp the only illumination as the sun set outside her window. Claire barely noticed the time slipping by, lost in the process of translating her experiences into words that might help others find their own path to healing. It was nearly midnight when Claire finally leaned back in her chair, stretching her tired muscles. She had added a new chapter to her book, the final chapter, she realized, the story of her confrontation with Stephen, of finding the strength to forgive, of closing that chapter of her life once and for all. As she saved her work and closed her laptop, Claire felt a profound sense of completion, not just of her book, but of the journey that had brought her to this point. She had faced her deepest fears, confronted her pain, and emerged stronger for it. Walking to her bedroom, Claire caught sight of herself in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at her was a far cry from the broken, betrayed wife she had been just months ago. This woman stood tall, her eyes clear and determined, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. As she prepared for bed, Claire's mind drifted to the future stretching out before her. The publication of her book, speaking engagements to share her story, the opportunity to help others who were facing similar struggles. But beyond that, she thought about the personal journey still ahead, rediscovering herself, exploring new passions, maybe even opening her heart to love again someday. Settling into bed, Claire felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, that uncertainty excited rather than frightened her. She had proven to herself that she could face whatever life threw at her and come out stronger on the other side. As sleep began to claim her, Claire's last thoughts were not of Stephen, or cancer, or betrayal. Instead, she thought of the sunrise that would greet her in the morning, a new day full of possibilities, in a life that was entirely her own. The soft glow of dawn was just beginning to peek through the curtains when Claire awoke the next morning. For a moment she lay still, savoring the sense of lightness that had settled over her. It was a new day, the first day of the rest of her life, a life unburdened by the weight of her past. As she went through her morning routine, Claire found herself humming softly, a habit she had almost forgotten in the turmoil of the past year. The simple melody filled the house, chasing away the last lingering shadows of sadness and betrayal. Over breakfast, Claire's phone buzzed with a series of messages. Sarah checking in after yesterday's visit to the prison, her publisher eager to set up a meeting to discuss the final draft of her book. Dr. Patel confirming her next checkup appointment, each message a reminder of the network of support she had built, the new life she was creating. As she responded to each message, Claire felt a surge of gratitude for her friends who had stood by her through the darkest times, for her doctors who had fought alongside her against the cancer, for the inner strength she had discovered within herself. With a sudden burst of energy, Claire decided to go for a walk. The crisp autumn air filled her lungs as she stepped outside, the neighborhood quiet in the early morning hours. As she walked, her mind wandered to the future, to the possibilities that lay ahead. Maybe she would travel, see the places she had always dreamed of visiting. Perhaps she would go back to school, pursue that master's degree she had put off for so long. Or maybe she would throw herself into volunteer work, using her experiences to help others facing similar challenges. The world felt open, full of potential, and for the first time in a long time, Claire felt ready to embrace it all. As she rounded the corner back onto her street, Claire's phone buzzed again. It was an email from a women's shelter in downtown Minneapolis. They had heard about her story through a mutual contact and were wondering if she would be interested in speaking at their annual fundraiser. Claire felt a spark of excitement as she read the email. This was it, the first step towards using her experiences to make a difference in others' lives. Without hesitation, she typed out a reply, agreeing to meet with the shelter's director to discuss the opportunity. As she hit send, Claire realized she was smiling. Not the forced smile she had worn so often during her treatment, or the sad smile that had become her default during the worst of Stephen's betrayal. This was a real, genuine smile, the smile of someone looking forward to the future. Returning home, Claire headed straight for her office. She had work to do, a speech to prepare, a book to finish, a life to live. As she settled into her chair, fingers poised over the keyboard, Claire felt a sense of purpose wash over her. She began to type, the words flowing easily. Every ending is also a beginning. Today I choose to focus not on what I've lost, but on what I've gained. Strength, resilience, self-discovery, the power to forge my own path. This is not the end of my story, it's only the beginning. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, bathing her office in warm light, Claire continued to write. She wrote of pain and healing, of betrayal and forgiveness, of fear and courage. But most of all, she wrote of hope. Hope for herself, and hope for anyone else who might find themselves facing their own darkest hour. This was her story, a story of survival, of resilience, of the indomitable human spirit. And as Claire poured her heart onto the page, she knew that the best chapters were still to come. The seasons changed, and with them, Claire's life continued to transform. As winter gave way to spring, the world around her seemed to mirror her own rebirth. The trees in her neighborhood burst into bloom, a vibrant reminder of life's resilience and the promise of new beginnings. Claire's days took on a new rhythm, one filled with purpose and possibility. Her mornings often began with yoga or a brisk walk, a celebration of her body's strength and vitality. The simple act of moving freely, without pain or fatigue, never failed to fill her with gratitude. Her book, Rising, A Journey of Healing and Redemption, hit the shelves in early spring. The response was overwhelming. Letters and emails poured in from readers around the country, many sharing their own stories of survival and thanking Claire for giving voice to their experiences. One particularly touching letter came from a woman named Maria in Arizona. Dear Claire, I can't express how much your book has meant to me. I'm currently going through chemotherapy, and there are days when the pain and fear feel insurmountable, but your words have given me hope. If you could face betrayal and cancer and come out stronger, then maybe I can too. Thank you for sharing your story. It's become a lifeline for me. Reading Maria's words, Claire felt a warmth spread through her chest. This was why she had written the book, why she had laid bare her most painful experiences. If her story could help even one person find the strength to keep fighting, it was all worth it. The success of her book led to speaking engagements across the country. Claire found herself addressing audiences of cancer survivors, women's groups, and even corporate events focused on resilience and overcoming adversity. Each time she stood at the podium, sharing her story and the lessons she had learned, Claire felt a sense of purpose that went beyond anything she had experienced before. One evening, after a particularly powerful speaking event in Chicago, Claire returned to her hotel room and caught sight of herself in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was a far cry from the broken, betrayed wife she had been just a year ago. This woman stood tall, her eyes bright with confidence and purpose. She had not only survived, she had thrived. As Claire prepared for bed, her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Just saw you on the local news. You were amazing as always. So proud of you, Claire. Can't wait to have you back home. Claire smiled, feeling a rush of affection for her friend. Sarah had been her rock through the darkest times, and now she was there to celebrate the brightest moments too. Back in Minneapolis, Claire's life continued to evolve. She had moved out of the house she had shared with Stephen, finding a cozy apartment overlooking one of the city's many lakes. The space was entirely her own, decorated with artwork she loved and filled with books that inspired her. One sunny afternoon, as Claire was returning from a meeting with her publisher, she bumped into an old colleague from her teaching days. "Claire Donovan," the man called out, a smile breaking across his face. Claire turned, recognizing David Anderson, who had taught history at the same high school where she had worked. "David, it's been ages," Claire said, genuinely pleased to see a familiar face. They chatted for a few minutes, catching up on the years that had passed. As they were about to part ways, David hesitated for a moment. "Listen, Claire," he said, a hint of nervousness in his voice. "I don't know if you're seeing anyone, but would you like to grab coffee sometime?" Claire felt a flutter in her stomach, a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She hadn't even considered dating since everything that had happened with Stephen, but looking at David's kind eyes and warm smile, she felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time, a spark of interest, of possibility. "You know what? I'd like that," Claire found herself saying, surprising even herself with her readiness. As she walked away, Claire's mind was whirling. Was she ready for this? Could she open her heart again after everything she'd been through? But then she remembered the promise she had made to herself, to live fully, to embrace new experiences, to not let fear hold her back. That evening, as Claire sat on her balcony watching the sunset paint the lake in hues of gold and pink, she reflected on how far she had come, from the depths of betrayal and illness to this moment of peace and possibility. She had rebuilt her life piece by piece, creating something beautiful from the ashes of her past. Meanwhile, in a federal prison hundreds of miles away, Stephen Donovan was facing his own journey of reflection and consequence. The years stretched out before him, each day a reminder of the choices that had led him to this point. At first, Stephen had wallowed in self-pity, blaming everyone but himself for his situation, but as the months passed, something began to shift within him. Perhaps it was the mandatory counseling sessions, or the long hours of solitude that forced him to confront his actions. Whatever the cause, Stephen slowly began to take responsibility for the choices he had made. He thought often of Claire, of the strength she had shown in forgiving him, not for his sake but for her own. Her words echoed in his mind, "I refuse to let it define me." Stephen realized that he had a choice to make. He could let his mistakes define the rest of his life, or he could use this time to become someone better. With this new perspective, Stephen threw himself into the prison's education programs. He tutored fellow inmates working towards their GEDs, finding a sense of purpose in helping others. He attended every counseling session, every support group, determined to understand the flaws in his character that had led him to betray the person who had loved him most. One day, about 2 years into his sentence, Stephen received a letter that would change everything. It was from Nora. "Stephen, I've thought long and hard about whether to write this letter. The truth is, I owe you an apology. When everything fell apart, I ran. I told myself it was because I couldn't be with someone who had done what you did. But the real reason was that I was afraid. Afraid of facing the consequences of my own actions, of admitting my part in the pain we caused. I'm not writing to rekindle anything. That chapter of our lives is closed, but I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Sorry for my role in destroying your marriage. Sorry for abandoning you when things got tough. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me, as I'm learning to forgive myself. I'm getting married next month. His name is Tom, and he's a good man. He knows about my past, about us, and he's helped me face my mistakes and become a better person. I hope that you too are finding a way to heal and grow. Take care, Stephen. Nora." Stephen read the letter multiple times, a whirlwind of emotions coursing through him. Anger, hurt, regret, but also, surprisingly, a sense of closure. Nora's words forced him to confront the last vestiges of denial he had been clinging to. He had wanted to believe that their love had been real, that it had been worth the destruction it caused. But now he saw the truth. They had both been running from something, using each other as an escape. That night, lying on his bunk, Stephen made a decision. He would write to Claire, not to ask for forgiveness. She had already given him that, more than he deserved. No, he would write to take full responsibility for his actions, to acknowledge the pain he had caused, and to thank her for the strength she had shown in moving forward. It took him weeks to find the right words. He wrote draft after draft, tearing them up and starting over. Finally, he had a letter he felt expressed everything he needed to say. "Dear Claire, I've started this letter 100 times, and each attempt feels inadequate. How do you apologize for destroying someone's world? How do you express remorse for betraying the person who stood by you through everything? The truth is, there are no words that can undo what I've done. No apology can erase the pain I caused you. But I need you to know that I understand now. I see the full weight of my actions, the depth of my betrayal. You were always the strong one, Claire. Even when I tried to convince myself otherwise, even when I told myself I needed something more, something different. You were strong when you supported me through school, strong when you faced your diagnosis, and strongest of all when you found the courage to rebuild your life in the wake of my betrayal. I want to thank you for the gift of your forgiveness. I know you didn't do it for me, but it has made a difference. It has shown me that change is possible, that redemption, while not guaranteed, is worth striving for. I don't expect a response to this letter. I don't deserve one. I simply wanted you to know that your strength has not been in vain. I am working every day to become someone worthy of the second chance I've been given. Someone who will never again take love and loyalty for granted. I wish you all the happiness in the world, Claire. You deserve nothing less. Stephen." As Stephen sealed the envelope, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had no illusions about reconciliation or absolution, but in acknowledging his mistakes and expressing his genuine remorse, he felt he had taken the first real step towards becoming a better man. Back in Minneapolis, Claire's life continued to flourish. Her coffee date with David had led to dinner, which had led to more dates. They took things slowly, both aware of the weight of Claire's past experiences. But with each passing day, Claire found herself opening up more, allowing herself to feel and to hope. One evening, as they walked hand in hand along the shores of Lake Harriet, David turned to Claire, his eyes serious. "Claire," he said softly, "I want you to know that I understand the magnitude of what you've been through. I know that trust doesn't come easily for you anymore, but I want you to know that I'm here for as long as you'll have me. I'm not going anywhere." Claire felt tears prick at her eyes. She squeezed David's hand, unable to find the words to express what his patience and understanding meant to her. As they continued their walk, Claire's phone buzzed in her pocket. It was an email from her publisher. "Claire, great news. Rising has just hit the New York Times bestseller list. Congratulations. Your story is touching lives across the country. We've already had inquiries about translation rights for international markets. We'd like to discuss the possibility of a follow-up book. Your journey of healing and rebuilding has resonated with so many readers. They want to know what comes next. How do you move forward after surviving the unimaginable? Let's set up a meeting next week to discuss the details. Best, Emily." Claire stared at the screen, a mix of emotions washing over her. Pride in what she had accomplished, gratitude for the opportunity to share her story, and a sense of awe at how far she had come. She showed the email to David, who wrapped her in a warm embrace. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered into her hair. As they stood there, the setting sun painting the lake in shades of gold and pink, Claire felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. She had survived the darkest chapter of her life and emerged stronger, wiser, more compassionate. She had found purpose in her pain, using her experiences to help others find their own path to healing. The next morning, as Claire sat at her desk preparing for a meeting with her publisher, she received an unexpected letter. Her heart skipped a beat as she recognized the handwriting on the envelope. "Stephen." For a moment, Claire simply stared at the letter, unsure whether to open it. She had moved on, had built a new life for herself. Did she really want to revisit the past? Taking a deep breath, Claire decided to open the letter. Whatever it contained, she was strong enough to face it. As she read Stephen's words, Claire felt a complex mix of emotions wash over her. Sadness for the life they had once shared, anger at the memories of his betrayal, but also, surprisingly, a sense of closure. Stephen's acknowledgement of his actions, his genuine remorse and his commitment to change didn't erase the past, but it did something Claire hadn't expected. It allowed her to finally, fully let go. She realized that a small part of her had still been carrying the weight of their shared history. But now, reading Stephen's words, she felt the last of that burden lift from her shoulders. Claire didn't respond to the letter. She didn't need to. Instead, she tucked it away in a drawer, a reminder of how far she had come, of the strength she had found within herself. That evening, As Claire prepared for her meeting with her publisher, she found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this point, from the depths of betrayal and illness to this moment of triumph and new beginnings. She thought about the book she had written, the lives she had touched through her words. And she thought about the story that was still unfolding, her story of moving forward, of embracing life after survival. As she gathered her notes, an idea began to take shape. The follow-up book her publisher wanted, it wouldn't just be about her. It would be a collection of stories, not just of survival, but of thriving in the face of adversity. Stories of people who, like her, had faced their darkest hours and emerged stronger, more compassionate, more alive. With renewed energy, Claire headed out the door. The sun was setting as she drove to the meeting, painting the Minneapolis skyline in breathtaking hues of orange and pink. It struck Claire as a fitting metaphor for her journey. Even in endings there is beauty, and every sunset promises a new dawn. As she parked her car and walked into the publishing house, Claire felt a sense of excitement for what lay ahead. She had survived, yes. But more than that, she had discovered a strength within herself that she never knew existed. She had found purpose in her pain, had turned her darkest experiences into a beacon of hope for others. The future stretched out before her, full of possibilities. There would be challenges, undoubtedly. Life had taught her that much. But Claire was no longer afraid of what lay ahead. She had faced the worst and emerged victorious. Whatever came next, she was ready. As Claire stepped into the conference room, greeted by the warm smiles of her publishing team, she felt a surge of gratitude for the journey that had brought her here, for the strength she had found within herself, for the opportunity to make a difference in the world. This was more than just a meeting about a book. It was a celebration of resilience, of the indomitable human spirit. It was a testament to the power of hope, of forgiveness, of choosing to rise above circumstances that threatened to break us. Claire took her seat at the table, her heart full and her spirit soaring. The next chapter of her life was about to begin, and she couldn't wait to see where it would lead. As the meeting began, Claire looked around the room at the eager faces of her publishing team. She took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice strong and clear. Thank you all for being here. As we discuss the possibility of a follow-up book, I want to share a vision that's been taking shape in my mind. It's a book not just about survival, but about thriving, about finding purpose in pain, strength in vulnerability, and hope in the darkest of times. The room fell silent, all eyes on Claire as she continued. My story is just one of many. I've received countless letters from readers sharing their own journeys of resilience. I believe that by bringing these stories together, we can create something truly powerful, a testament to the human spirit and a guide for anyone facing their own battles. As Claire outlined her idea, she could see the excitement building in the room. Her editor, Emily, was nodding enthusiastically, already jotting down notes. Claire, this is brilliant, Emily said when Claire finished speaking. It's not just a follow-up to Rising, it's an evolution. You're not just sharing your story anymore. You're providing a platform for others to share theirs. This could help so many people. The meeting stretched on for hours as they discussed the details of the new project. By the time Claire left the publishing house, night had fallen over Minneapolis. As she drove home, the city lights twinkling around her, she felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever before. Arriving home, Claire found a message waiting on her answering machine. It was from the women's shelter where she had given her first speaking engagement. Claire, it's Sandra from Hope House. I just wanted to let you know that because of your speech at our fundraiser, we've received enough donations to open a new wing dedicated to helping women rebuild their lives after leaving abusive situations. We'd be honored if you'd come speak at the opening ceremony next month. You've made such a difference in so many lives, Claire. Thank you. Tears pricked at Claire's eyes as she listened to the message. This was why she had chosen to share her story, why she had exposed her most vulnerable moments to the world. It wasn't just about her healing anymore. It was about creating a ripple effect of hope and empowerment. As Claire prepared for bed that night, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was a far cry from the broken, betrayed wife she had been just a few years ago. This woman stood tall, her eyes bright with purpose and hope. She had not only survived, she had found a way to turn her pain into a force for good in the world. Climbing into bed, Claire's mind drifted to Stephen. She hoped that he too was finding a way to redeem himself, to grow from his mistakes. Not for her sake, but for his own. Everyone deserved the chance to become a better version of themselves. As she drifted off to sleep, Claire felt a profound sense of peace. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had led her to this moment. A moment filled with purpose, hope, and the promise of a brighter future. The next morning, Claire woke early, energized by the possibilities that lay ahead. She had a full day planned, a meeting with her agent to discuss the new book project, followed by a support group session at the local cancer center, where she now volunteered regularly. As she sipped her morning coffee on the balcony overlooking the lake, Claire's phone buzzed with a text from David. "Good morning, beautiful. Just wanted to wish you luck with your meetings today. Dinner tonight to celebrate? I love you." Claire smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. Love. It had taken time, patience, and courage to open her heart again after Stephen's betrayal, but with David, she had found a partnership based on mutual respect, trust, and genuine affection. It wasn't the fairy tale romance of her youth, but something deeper, more resilient. "Thank you, love," she texted back. "Dinner sounds perfect. Can't wait to tell you all about it. I love you too." As Claire drove to her agent's office, she reflected on the twists and turns that had brought her to this point, the betrayal that had shattered her world, the cancer diagnosis that had threatened to end it, the long, grueling journey of treatment and recovery. Each challenge had seemed insurmountable at the time, but she had faced them all and emerged stronger. The meeting with her agent Jessica was productive and exciting. They spent hours outlining the concept for the new book, discussing potential interviewees and themes to explore. "Claire, this book has the potential to change lives," Jessica said as they wrapped up. "You're not just telling your story anymore. You're creating a platform for others to share theirs, to find strength in shared experiences. It's powerful stuff." Claire nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and responsibility. "That's the goal," she said, "to show people that they're not alone, that there's hope even in the darkest times." As she left Jessica's office, Claire's phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from Dr. Patel. "Dear Claire, I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to reach out because we're putting together a panel for an upcoming oncology conference, focusing on the psychological aspects of cancer treatment and recovery. Given your unique perspective as both a survivor and an advocate, we would be honored if you would consider being a speaker. Your journey and your work have been inspiring to so many, myself included. Please let me know if you'd be interested in participating. Best regards, Dr. Patel." Claire felt a surge of emotion as she read the email. Dr. Patel had been more than just her oncologist. She had been a source of strength and hope during the darkest days of her treatment. The opportunity to give back, to potentially help other doctors understand the patient experience better, was incredibly appealing. Without hesitation, Claire replied, accepting the invitation. The rest of the day flew by in a whirlwind of activity. At the support group, Claire shared her experiences and listened as others opened up about their own struggles and triumphs. It never ceased to amaze her how much strength could be found in community, in the simple act of sharing one's story. As evening approached, Claire made her way to the restaurant where she was meeting David. She spotted him at their usual table, his face lighting up as he saw her approach. "There's my best-selling author," he said, standing to greet her with a warm hug and a gentle kiss. As they settled into their seats, Claire couldn't help but marvel at how different this felt from her dinners with Stephen towards the end of their marriage. There was no tension, no unspoken resentments, just warmth, comfort, and genuine interest. Over dinner, Claire shared the events of her day, the exciting plans for her new book, the invitation from Dr. Patel, the moving stories from the support group. David listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions and offering words of encouragement. "I'm so proud of you, Claire," he said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "The way you've turned your experiences into a force for good, it's incredible." Claire squeezed his hand, feeling a rush of affection. "I couldn't have done it without support," she said softly. "You, Sarah, my doctors, my readers, you've all been part of this journey." As they finished their meal, David's expression turned slightly nervous. "Actually," he said, "there's something I wanted to talk to you about." Claire felt a momentary flutter of anxiety, an old reflex from her days with Stephen, but she pushed it aside, reminding herself that David had proven himself trustworthy time and time again. "What is it?" she asked, her voice calm. David took a deep breath. "I've been offered a position at the University of Minnesota. It's a great opportunity, a step up in my career, but It would mean moving to the Twin Cities. He paused, watching Claire's reaction carefully. I know you've built a life here in Minneapolis, that you have your support network here. I don't want to pressure you, but I wanted to know how you'd feel about maybe making the move together. Claire sat back, taking in David's words. The idea of moving, of leaving the city where she had experienced so much pain, but also so much growth, was daunting. But as she looked at David, she realized that home wasn't about a place. It was about the people you surrounded yourself with, the life you built together. David, she said, a slow smile spreading across her face. I think that sounds wonderful. The relief and joy on David's face was palpable. He leaned across the table, capturing her lips in a tender kiss. As they left the restaurant hand in hand, Claire felt a sense of excitement for the future. She had faced her past, had rebuilt her life from the ashes of betrayal and illness. Now, she was ready for a new adventure, a new chapter. The night air was crisp as they walked along the lakefront, the stars twinkling overhead. Claire looked up at the vast expanse of sky, feeling small yet significant. Her journey had taught her that life was unpredictable, often challenging but always worth living to the fullest. You know, she said, breaking the comfortable silence, 5 years ago, I thought my life was over. The betrayal, the cancer, it felt like more than I could bear. David squeezed her hand encouragingly, listening. But now, Claire continued, I realized that it was just the beginning. Every challenge, every setback, it was all leading me here, to this moment, this life. She stopped walking, turning to face David. I'm excited for our future together, she said softly, for the life we're going to build. David wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. Me too, he murmured into her hair. We've got a lifetime of adventures ahead of us. As they stood there, embracing under the starry sky, Claire felt a profound sense of peace and gratitude wash over her. She had survived the storm, had found her way to calmer waters. And now, with David by her side and a sense of purpose guiding her path, she was ready to set sail towards new horizons. The journey hadn't been easy, and Claire knew that life would always have its challenges. But she also knew that she had the strength to face whatever came her way. She had learned that true resilience wasn't about avoiding pain or hardship, but about finding the courage to keep moving forward, to keep loving, to keep living fully, despite the scars. As they walked back to the car, Claire's mind drifted to the people whose lives she had touched through her book and her advocacy work. She thought of the cancer patients who had found hope in her story, the betrayed spouses who had found the strength to rebuild their lives, the countless individuals who had reached out to say that her words had made a difference. She realized that her experiences, painful as they had been, had given her a gift, the ability to connect with others in their darkest moments, to offer a lifeline of hope and understanding. It was a responsibility she took seriously, a calling she was committed to pursuing. As David drove them home, Claire gazed out at the city lights, her mind already racing with ideas for her new book, for the panel at the oncology conference, for the life she and David would build together in the Twin Cities. She had once thought that Stephen's betrayal and her cancer diagnosis were the end of her story. Now she understood that they were merely the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter filled with growth, purpose, and love. As they pulled up to her apartment building, Claire felt a sense of excitement for what the future held. She had faced her darkest fears, had stared down death and betrayal, and had emerged not just a survivor, but a thriver. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Claire knew she was ready to face them. She had learned that life's greatest trials often led to its greatest triumphs, that pain could be transformed into purpose, that love could bloom even in the most unexpected places. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Claire's last thoughts were of gratitude for the strength she had found within herself, for the love she had found with David, for the opportunity to make a difference in the world. Her story wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning, and Claire couldn't wait to see where it would lead next. If this story touched your heart, and you want to keep following inspiring and emotional tales, make sure to subscribe to our channel to catch the new stories we share daily. And if you missed our latest story, here's what happened. In a house filled with secrets and silence, a man who had everything chose to belittle and betray the woman who had always stood by his side after she fell ill. Mason Vance believed he was in control, but what he didn't know was that behind Grace's apparent frailty, A dark truth was about to surface. Mysterious medications, hidden documents, and a betrayal so cruel that no one would dare to imagine. What began as an act of contempt turns into a dangerous game where love, ambition, and justice collide without mercy. Stay until the end, because this story will grip you from start to finish and leave you speechless. Want to find out what happened next? Then click on the video appearing on your screen now and see it all unfold. I'll see you there.